At 72, Margaret wakes up every morning with a sense of purpose. She journals over coffee, takes long walks, and has a calendar full of plans, volunteering, book clubs, even learning Spanish. But retirement wasn't always this fulfilling. At first, it felt empty. No one warns you about loneliness, the lost sense of identity, or how time stretches endlessly. Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Let's uncover 10 surprising things they don't tell you about retirement, starting with one that catches many off guard. 1. You might miss work. More than you think, retirement was supposed to be the dream. No more meetings, no more schedules, no more office politics. Margaret had envisioned a life of leisure, travel, hobbies, relaxation. But just a few months in, she felt something unexpected, a deep, nagging sense of loss. For decades, work had given her purpose. It structured her days, challenged her mind, and provided built-in social interactions. Without it, she felt untethered. The thrill of finishing a big project, the camaraderie of teamwork, the feeling of accomplishment, gone. And she wasn't alone. Many retirees find themselves surprised by how much they miss the routine and sense of identity that work provides. At first, Margaret felt guilty for missing something she thought she wanted to escape. But instead of ignoring that feeling, she leaned into it. She asked herself, what did I truly love about working? The answer wasn't the job itself. It was the engagement, the feeling of contribution. So she found new ways to channel that energy. She started mentoring younger professionals, offering guidance and wisdom in online forums and local groups. She volunteered at a nonprofit where her skills were valued and appreciated. She even took up a part-time consulting role on her own terms. It wasn't about recreating her past career. It was about finding new ways to feel purposeful. Retirement doesn't mean losing what made you thrive. It just means reshaping it into something that fits this stage of life. 2. Managing your time can be surprisingly hard. Ironically, after decades of wishing for more free time, many retirees find themselves overwhelmed by too much of it. Without a set routine, days blur together, motivation dips, and even simple tasks feel like they can wait indefinitely. Margaret, who had spent her career juggling packed schedules, thought retirement would feel like an endless weekend. Instead, she found herself restless, unmotivated, and oddly drained. She would start the day with no real plan, telling herself she had all the time in the world. But without clear structure, afternoons would slip away without anything meaningful accomplished. Even activities she had once enjoyed, reading, gardening, even socializing, felt like they lacked direction. It was as if too much freedom had paralyzed her. The turning point came when she realized that structure doesn't have to disappear in retirement. It just needs to be self-created. She began experimenting with a loose, flexible routine. Mornings became her sacred time, a slow, peaceful ritual of coffee, journaling, and planning her day. She dedicated mid-mornings to movement, alternating between yoga, walking, and stretching. Afternoons were for creative or social activities, painting, book clubs, phone calls with friends. Evenings became time for relaxation, reflection, and unwinding. What changed wasn't just her schedule, it was her sense of control. She no longer felt aimless. Instead, she woke up each day with quiet intention, knowing that retirement wasn't about filling time, but about making time feel fulfilling. 3. Your identity might feel lost. Without a career title, retirement is often painted as a time of freedom, but no one warns you about the identity crisis that can come with it. For years, work wasn't just a job. It was a label, a role, a sense of self. The moment that title disappears, the question arises, who am I now? Margaret never expected this to be a problem. She had been a professional, a mentor, a leader. But once she retired, introducing herself felt strange. Saying, "I used to be," stung in a way she hadn't anticipated. Without her job title, she felt invisible, unanchored. At first, she filled the void with distractions, travel, social events, new hobbies. But none of them gave her the same sense of self she had in her career. It wasn't just about missing work. It was about losing the identity that came with it. She realized that redefining herself didn't mean erasing her past. Instead, it meant evolving beyond it. She started embracing roles she had overlooked before: a storyteller, a lifelong learner, an advocate for causes she cared about. When people asked, "What do you do?" she no longer defaulted to what she used to be. Instead, she answered with what she was becoming. It was a shift that changed everything. Retirement wasn't about losing identity. It was about rediscovering it in a new, more personal way. 4. Your relationship with your partner might change. Spending more time with your partner sounds wonderful in theory, but retirement changes the rhythm of a relationship in ways most couples don't expect. Margaret and her husband had always enjoyed their time together, but retirement introduced a new dynamic. With both of them home all the time, the balance shifted. Small habits that once went unnoticed suddenly became sources of irritation. Their schedules, once dictated by work, were now entirely in their hands, and that much togetherness wasn't always easy. For the first time in years, they had to relearn how to share space, time, and purpose. At first, it led to tension. Margaret missed her quiet mornings, while her husband, eager to make the most of retirement, wanted to plan activities. Their usual roles in the household blurred, leading to minor but frequent disagreements. The surprise wasn't that they struggled. It was how much work it took to adjust to a new normal. They had to communicate in ways they hadn't before, setting boundaries while also making space for shared experiences. The biggest lesson? Retirement doesn't automatically strengthen a relationship. It magnifies whatever was already there. Whether it's love, resentment, or unresolved conflicts, this new phase of life brings it all to the surface. The key isn't just spending time together. It's learning how to grow together in this new chapter. 5. Friendships change, and some may fade. One of the biggest surprises in retirement isn't just making new friends. It's realizing that some of your old friendships won't last. Margaret had spent decades cultivating friendships through work, social circles, and shared experiences. She assumed these bonds would remain strong after retirement, but things didn't unfold that way. As weeks turned into months, she noticed fewer phone calls, fewer invitations, and a growing distance with some of the people she once considered close. At first, she took it personally. Had she done something wrong? Was she no longer interested now that she wasn't working? The reality was simpler, but no less painful. Retirement changes social dynamics. Without the built-in interactions of work or routine gatherings, some friendships naturally fade. People move on, their priorities shift, and not every connection withstands that transition. She found herself grieving friendships she thought would last forever. But through that loss, she also discovered something unexpected. Retirement is an opportunity to cultivate friendships that truly align with who you are now. She started seeking out people who shared her current passions, joining book clubs, reconnecting with neighbors, and attending local events. Some of her older friendships remained strong, while others drifted away. And that was okay. The friendships that endured became deeper, more intentional, and more fulfilling. 6. Your health becomes a full-time job. No one tells you that staying healthy in retirement requires more effort than ever. Without work dictating your schedule, it's easy to assume that you'll have all the time in the world to prioritize your health. But in reality, retirement brings new health challenges that demand constant attention. Margaret had always been reasonably active, but retirement introduced new realities she hadn't anticipated. Aches and pains that were once occasional became more persistent. Doctor's appointments, which had been an afterthought during her working years, suddenly became frequent. She also noticed changes in her energy levels and metabolism, things she hadn't given much thought to before. For the first time, she realized that her health wasn't something she could take for granted. It wasn't just about avoiding illness, it was about actively maintaining her strength, mobility, and mental clarity. She started paying closer attention to nutrition, exercise, and stress management. Daily movement became a necessity, not an option. Sleep, hydration, and even mental exercises like puzzles or meditation took on new significance. It was a shift that required discipline, but the payoff was undeniable. The surprising truth? Health isn't a passive part of retirement. It's a job that requires daily effort. 7. You might feel guilty for not enjoying retirement. Retirement is supposed to be the happiest time of life. So why do so many retirees feel guilty for not enjoying it as much as they expected? Margaret had imagined retirement as a phase of pure contentment, long walks, hobbies, relaxation, and no stress. But even with everything in place, a solid routine, fulfilling activities, and financial security, there were days when she felt restless, unmotivated, or even dissatisfied. She couldn't shake the feeling that she should be happier. She had worked her whole life for this, yet there were moments of boredom, sadness, and even regret. Instead of embracing this new phase, she found herself questioning why she wasn't feeling more fulfilled. The truth was, retirement comes with emotional ups and downs, just like any other stage of life. There's pressure to enjoy it, to make the most of every moment, and to be constantly grateful. But in reality, adjusting to retirement is a process, not an instant state of bliss. Margaret eventually accepted that it was okay to have mixed emotions. Some days would be joyful, others would be slow, and that was normal. Retirement wasn't about achieving a perfect state of happiness. It was about embracing the full range of experiences without guilt. 8. Retirement isn't the end, it's a new beginning. Retirement isn't just the end of a career. It's the start of an entirely new chapter. Yet many retirees struggle with the idea that life's most exciting moments are behind them. The sense of purpose, the structure, the ambition, all things tied to a working life, can leave retirees wondering, what now? Margaret had spent decades believing that retirement was the grand finale, the moment when everything slowed down. But as she settled into this phase, she realized that she wasn't done growing, learning, or discovering. Life didn't stop at 65 or 70. It kept evolving, and she could either resist it or embrace it. The turning point came when she stopped viewing retirement as a time to wind down and started seeing it as a time to level up. She began setting personal goals, not just for fun, but for growth. Whether it was learning a new skill, taking up a creative passion, or even starting a small business, she realized that the future still held endless possibilities. She met retirees who were writing books, starting community projects, or traveling to places they had always dreamed of. Instead of feeling like life was slowing down, she saw that it was expanding in new and exciting ways. The biggest surprise? Retirement isn't about stopping. It's about reinventing. 9. Your legacy is more than just money. When people think of leaving a legacy, they often focus on finances, inheritances, assets, wills. But the truth is, the most impactful legacies have nothing to do with money. Margaret always believed that her greatest contribution would be in the wealth she passed down to her children. But as she grew older, she realized that her true legacy was in the wisdom, love, and experiences she shared. It became clear in the small moments, when she passed down family recipes, when she told her grandchildren stories of her childhood, when she mentored younger people who looked to her for guidance. These were the things that would live on long after she was gone. She started being intentional about her legacy, not just in financial planning, but in the values she wanted to instill. She wrote letters to her family, reflecting on lessons learned over decades of life. She recorded stories, ensuring her memories and insights would remain for generations to come. The most unexpected realization: a legacy isn't built at the end of life. It's shaped in the everyday moments of how we love, teach, and inspire others. 10. Happiness in retirement comes from growth, not just rest. One of the biggest myths about retirement is that happiness comes from finally being able to relax. While rest is important, true fulfillment comes from continued growth. Margaret had always looked forward to the idea of doing nothing. She envisioned quiet mornings, slow days, and the complete absence of stress. But after months of unstructured relaxation, she felt restless. The days blurred together, and despite having everything she had worked for, something was missing. That was when she discovered that growth doesn't end in retirement. She started challenging herself again, not in the way work had once done, but in ways that expanded her mind and spirit. She signed up for classes, reigniting her passion for learning. She pushed herself physically, trying new forms of exercise that made her feel strong. She embraced creative challenges, painting, writing, even learning to play the piano. Every time she stepped outside her comfort zone, she felt a renewed sense of vitality. The most surprising truth? The retirees who continue to grow, explore, and challenge themselves are the ones who thrive the most. Retirement isn't the end of progress. It's the beginning of a whole new kind of self-discovery. Margaret's journey shows us that retirement isn't an end. It's a chance to rediscover, grow, and thrive. By embracing new habits and challenges, she found purpose, joy, and a legacy to leave behind. Now, it's your turn to embrace this exciting chapter with confidence and endless possibilities.